Welcome to Sunshine Cathedral's Queer God Squad. I am Bishop Darrell Watkins, the Senior Minister of the Sunshine Cathedral for the Queer God Squad. To learn more about us.
Queer God Squad was created by Hotspots Happening Now to support our mission to explore the value of faith in the LGBTQ community.
There is no streaming TV show like this in the entire world. In 2026, we are celebrating the 41st anniversary of Hotspots magazine, with Queer News Tonight sharing over 14,000 stories and 12 million views so far.
We are the largest nonprofit LGBTQ media organization in America, and we encourage you to support our mission to inform, entertain, and educate our community and allies.
This is the Sunshine Cathedral Perspective.
Welcome to today's Queer God Squad. I'm Darrell Watkins, and with me today is our Canon theologian at the Sunshine Cathedral, Rob Lee IV, the Reverend Dr. Rob Lee. And so we're going to be Canon theologizing today because I do have a theological question. Now, first of all, this honorific that we've only given 2 people. There will be more. I've got some folks in mind, but it's a difficult thing to bear because we are so not monolithic. We are so ecumenical in our thinking, and so we don't have a script that we all read from the pulpit. You know, so we all say the same thing. We all share the same values. I mean, you couldn't disrespect who we are. But as far as this, that, or the other take on things, we sort of run the gamut. And so to say, well, I'm the theologian that sort of represents that in the world is probably challenging because we have. Well, we're all sort of universalists, but we also have, Unitarians and Trinitarians and agnostics and high church and low church. We got it all. And we try to have something for everyone, but it's still a task to say, I'm not even like some of the people that I represent, and yet they want me to do it. I like doing it or whatever. So I want to know, in that realm, in that context that we've asked you to do, and you're doing it, thank you. But you are a cis, white, heterosexual, able-bodied, professional, educated professional. You tick all the boxes that we're supposed to be suspicious of.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
and yet, and you're from a Confederate state, a former Confederate state. I used to say former. I don't know if any of them are former, really, as it turns out, in recent days. And yet, you have chosen, apparently pretty early on. Maybe this was your conversion experience, like you just heard about this Jesus guy and believed it and took it seriously. But you are an advocate for women's rights and sovereignty, and you are an advocate for the LGBTQ plus children of God, and you sort of came to national, maybe even international notoriety with your stance of embracing really in your face anti-racism. There are a lot of people in the queer community that aren't where you are on some of these issues. And they need to be, guys, catch up. But so why? You don't have to do any of this. The world really is your oyster if you just ride the wave that so many people do. And yet, and this is what I say all the time, there's a difference between an ally and a fan. Yeah, we have lots of fans. Good for you, and we like you and we enjoy you. But your allies are taking the rocks that are being thrown at you. They're getting hit too. And you're one of the few people I know who do that. And so why? Why the hell do you do it?
Well, first of all, I'm a Baptist Metapalian, so that kind of covers the liturgical and theological aspects of what it means to be part of the Sunshine Cathedral community. I was raised United Methodist and ordained in the American Baptist tradition. I am a closet Episcopalian, is what I say to people. I preach at most churches I preach at are actually Episcopalian congregations, which is really funny to me. All that's to say, though, is I've preached the gamut of churches, from kind of broad church black communities to very high church Anglican communities. But that said, I think to the broader point, I think from a very young age, I've had skin in the game of being an ally, and that's not to toot my own horn. It's really almost selfish to say. I was raised going to an evangelical Christian school. Because I didn't play sports, because I dressed in a fashionable way, people assumed I was gay and called me that and used horrible names that are just irrepeatable even here towards me. and I realized very early on my problem wasn't the fact that people were calling me gay because they thought I was gay. I had no problem with gay people. I certainly had people that I loved who I knew were gay. But that said, the fact that they kind of put me all in one basket with everybody else and said, this is who you are, this is how you are to identify, because we believe this is true. And that to me was really unacceptable. I kind of am who I am, and I've learned to be okay with that over the years. But that doesn't mean that that people can assign that to me. And so from a very early age, I tried to be an ally to people and say, you get to assign to yourself who you are. That is something between you, your own understanding of who you are and who God created you to be. And that got to a point where I left that school and went to a public high school. It was one of the best experiences ever to go to a public high school that was more diverse and more people, more understanding and a more broader view of society. But I think it was from that very early age of understanding that people could call me a name and feel that they had power over me. That bugged me because I knew who I was, and I needed you to be okay with who I was, no matter what that looked like.
That was one of the joys, and of course we figured this out decades ago. I figured this out in my 20s. The joys of and the empowerment of reclamation. That once we said, okay, we're queer, it was no longer an insult. Now, people who haven't been able to do that, they still are sort of tormented. Oh, it was an ugly word. They were mean to me when I was a kid. Yeah, they were mean to us, which is why we took one of their weapons away.
Right.
And now this is a symbol of pride, and it's so much more inclusive because there's a lot of people who don't fit into strict categories and binaries, and so that makes them queer. And so it's a very inclusive, and because we just took it away from them.
Right.
And I know a lot of women who've done the same thing with Dyke, and that's if that doesn't feel good coming out of your mouth, then don't do it.
Right.
But also don't get upset when let people get healed. If that's how they got their healing, can't you be healed enough to let them be healed, even if you don't do it in their way? So that power of they thought by calling me a thing they had power over me. Well, that's the queer experience and we get to take our power back. We get to take that word back, redefine it, celebrate it, and just make it not fun at all for you to use. What do you say? And surely you've heard this. I mean, I haven't heard it about you, but I've heard about so many others. And surely you have heard this. When people say, you are really just giving permission to these godless sinners. Like, aren't you going to be held accountable for telling all of these wretches that really God loves them just as they are?
If I get to heaven, which again, some might think it's presumptuous of me to say, but if I get to heaven and God says I loved too deeply and too hard on people, then that will not be God. And that will not be a God that I would want to be around for whatever the hereafter holds. And that's, I mean, it simply and directly, I was raised by great parents and great grandparents who showed me what love looks like and what mercy looks like and what grace and forgiveness and this community of faith that surrounded me in my home church, even when I was young and figuring out cutting my teeth as a very young person, feeling a call to ministry. I still feel like there was a sense of like, there's love here. There's compassion here. How do we get that to the world? So if it gets to the point where I'm, damned for showing too much mercy, damned for showing too much compassion, damned for showing too much grace, then that's not something that I'll go to heaven for the climate and hell for the company kind of thing, as Mark Twain said. I don't want to be around that kind of God.
Archbishop Tutu said he just wouldn't go to a homophobic heaven.
Right. And I mean, the idea that somehow, and this really bothers me on a cellular level, the idea that you or Robert or anybody here at Sunshine Cathedral would be condemned to hell for eternity because of your love that you show for one another is laughable. It is absolutely laughable to me.
And if I were given a choice, like stay in your marriage and you don't get to go to the Cosmic Country Club, or leave it, and then I would say that club is not good enough for me anyway. Then, any place. So anyway, I wouldn't take the deal.
Right. And I think This is, and I tried to talk about this in a recent sermon I preached at Sunshine Cathedral a little bit, is this notion of heaven being this place where we play harps and sing and praise. I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in a place that looks like the garden where I get to be with the people I love. And if other people can't have that too, that doesn't seem equitable. That doesn't seem just.
And I can't imagine, maybe I'm just not as creative as most religious people, but I can't even imagine what's next.
Right.
I can't prove that there is a next.
Right.
And so all of my attention is on not making someone's life hell now.
Right,
not trying to save them from a
But
later
isn't
hell.
it interesting that people have spent their entire careers in ministry, their entire preaching lives, trying to get people to a place that we have no guarantee is there?
Yeah, I can't
when
prove
they're
anything.
hurting in the pews right
I'm
now.
saying,
You know,
yeah.
Dr. King, one of his last lines that he preached in Memphis was, "It's all right to talk about long white robes over yonder and all of its symbolism, but people need shirts and shoes and
Yes.
dresses to wear down here. It's all right to talk about the land flowing with milk and honey, but ultimately we've got to talk about people who can't eat 3 square meals a day.
I can't
That
promise
is it."
I can't promise you an ivory mansion later, but I can help you find a bed tonight.
Right.
And that's
right.
and the whole idea that opulence would make you happy doesn't seem to do it now. Why
Right.
would it do it later?
Right. Well, and I mean, I think about it, it goes back again to the private evangelical school where they tell you you're going to get a mansion one day. Well, that sounds great, but if other people have mansions, am I going to be lonely in there? I mean, these
Yeah.
are the things that I would think through as a kid, my theological wheels turning
Mhm.
in real ways. And it got to the point where it was like, I don't want that. I want to be here. I want to be in the now. I want to be in the know of God.
Well, you're a chooser. We only have a couple minutes left, but you are a chooser. You know what I mean? Like you choose to be an ally, and you chose your children, and you know you preach all over the world, but you choose to come back to Sunshine Cathedral regularly. You must be pro-choice because you're such a chooser yourself. You have to make so many and wonderful choices. Why? Why do you choose? Why? Because it takes an effort to make a choice. That I have this or this, and I want to do this. Or a lot of people just ignore it, or just take what comes. That you are a chooser. Is that a spiritual gift, or is that a discipline? Like, how is it that you are a choice maker
I think
about things that really matter in other people's lives?
Well, yes. I think if you think about it from a theological key, if you translate what your question is into a theological key, I'm trying to imitate God and God's choice for the world. God chooses us time and time again. I love the line in the Methodist communion liturgy, when we turned away and our love failed, God's love remains steadfast. It's like God's choosing this. God is choosing. If I were God, I'd have thrown up my hands in 2016 and said, you know what, you guys are on your own. And maybe God did, but,
Right.
but I don't think that's who God is. I think God has continually chosen to be with and to be for and to go with and to go behind and in front and above us all. And what that looks like for different people, obviously, is different and as disparate as the people that we serve. But for me, it looks like choosing love, and there's the Mark Miller side. I choose love. Like I choose love, and if that's going to get me put with people like Sunshine Cathedral, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. If that's going to get me put with my daughters, greatest gift in the world. If it's going to get me put with my wife, with my family, but with marginalized people too, then that's where I want to be, because I actually think those margins, this place, this cathedral, on a Sunday morning when people who can worship freely and without fear, that's, I actually think, where God would choose to be if God had to show up for worship on a Sunday morning.
I've heard people say all my life that if Jesus came back, his first stop would be Stonewall.
Right.
You know, the Stonewall.
Right.
And I just keep thinking of the scripture. I hope I'm quoting it correctly. I set before you this day love and bullshit. Choose love.
Yeah.
And so isn't that how it goes?
It is our nature to shy away from things.
Yeah.
And that's just the kind of the but if you actively choose to love, you won't go wrong.
And that's today with the Queer God Squad.
Thank you for joining the Queer God Squad today. We are here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and to discuss what our LGBTQ community is talking about. Please like and share this and other episodes of the Queer God Squad. Sunshine Cathedral is the world's leading progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together. Remember that we're all in this together. Also remember, you are God's miracle, not God's mistake. Until next time, we are the Queer God Squad.